welcome everyone to 284 News. My name is Javon Wilson.
I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant.
And we are so thrilled and happy to be coming to you live out of the beautiful British Virgin Islands. The content continues via our website, 284media.com.
In today's news, taxpayers to foot the more than $120,000 legal bill ordered by the Supreme High Court to be paid by the Speaker as Premier announced motion to exempt Willock from fees.
Senior school teachers of the Elmore South High School stage yet another sick-out today despite classes being held online. A strikeout continues.
And the VI Recreation Trust Families at Play event deemed a success after attracting some 500 residents. Plans to have events monthly and also on the sister islands.
The Great March of 1949 takes center stage during the Culture and Tourism Month with a book launch.
And we also see the NLBC to host African Mission Benefit Concert. We get to these and more stories when 284 News returns.
You value traditions. You value music. You value education. Family.
I love you.
Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
Well, welcome everyone. It's Thursday, October 28th, 2021. I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant. We're coming to you live and direct from the beautiful British Virgin Islands. A happy Thursday to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, before we get into our newscast, our teachers are frustrated. Treat us as priority, says the BVI Teachers Union. This is, of course, Kamal, in observance of the strike that has been taking place amongst teachers at the junior and senior schools of the Elmore South High School. We're going to get into that, of course. And government's COVID stimulus monies were misguided, says opposition leader. Governor's group is said to have waived 6 out of 10 tender processes over some 2 years, and 3 found guilty of illegal gun possession within 5-year-old case. Kamal, quite a lot going on in the territory of the Virgin Islands, and we have all the details.
Indeed, especially with this top story, where taxpayers will be made to foot the more than $120,000 legal fee, which was ordered by the Eastern Supreme High Court to be paid by Speaker of the House Julian Willock, following a motion to be made by Premier Andrew Foy to exempt the Speaker from paying such fee. But this was disclosed by Premier Foy during the 12th sitting of the 3rd session of the 4th House of Assembly on Thursday, October 28th, where the Premier was rearranged during the contents of the order paper at the time when he made the revelation. Well, he said, and I quote, "Well, number 7 remains the same on the order paper as is. Number 8 remains the same on the order paper as is. Number 9 now will be the motion for exempting the Speaker from paying legal fees to the court," end quote. Well, Speaker Willock was originally ordered by the Eastern Caribbean Supreme High Court to pay the legal fees of the defendants in his discontinued injunction case, which was filed against the Commissioner of Inquiry, and his 3 attorneys. Well, the judgment was handed down by Justice Adrian Jack on Thursday, September 30th, where it was revealed that the Speaker Willock could pay more than $120,000 once an assessment of the total fees were made. while the legal fees submitted by the Attorney General totaled $6,084, while the bill for the Commissioner, Sir Gary Hickenbottom, along with his 3 attorneys, Bill Arurat, Rhea Harrison, and Andrew King, totaled $115,348.50. Well, viewers, that developing story, obviously, the House of Assembly would have continued today, and up until the broadcasting of this particular newscast,
yes,
it wasn't the motion was not officially passed as yet. But what we can say is there was obviously significant public backlash following the announcement of this story that we broke at 284 News. And a lot of persons are against it. We're also seeing a petition. Persons are actually sending a petition where 100 signatures to prevent the government to rethink this decision and also, you know, to basically try to force the government to reverse that decision in terms of having to pay this fee, because obviously this will be a fee now that taxpayers now have to look for.
Kamal, there are a few things that I have to say on this regarding the public backlash. This is not the first story of viewers that 284 Media has broken. Of course, we see where the and within the year of 2021, there have been a number of stories. Another one in particular comes to mind as it pertains to the legislators getting a salary increase, and we saw where after the fact, persons really took to the community boards, they took to the forums, and government essentially withdrew that. One of the things that I think is very important when it comes to our trajectory of our territory is that it should not come to the point where Virgin Islanders and residents have to voice their opinions. I think common sense is common sense. What we see really taking place, and I think it's really daunting, the timing, because we are in the Commission of Inquiry. I think we have to pay special attention to our actions, both as a territory, on a government level, and as in a country. It seems very blatant. Taxpayers feel neglected, they feel frustrated, and this, of course, is in line with a growing protest by teachers, and we're going to get to that story, but there are a lot of other issues that are really tackling our society, and to have the government, while I do understand, because the Speaker is appointed by the government, so I can understand why they are in support of the Speaker and why they would support him. But for the government of the Virgin Islands to essentially put taxpayers again at another cost, I think it is sending the wrong message, and it is really the wrong time. But viewers, progressing on the matter of frustration, mounting frustration, that is, senior school teachers of the Elmore Stout High School, that's the CTL campus, despite being online, have this morning, that's earlier today, they called in sick. Their sick out was originally scheduled for yesterday, Wednesday, October 27th, which was similar to the junior school teachers. However, once education officials got wind of the planned sick out by senior teachers, they moved to essentially close senior school at the CTL campus for remedial mold work cleaning. Now, the silent strikeout really shows viewers the unprecedented frustration by teachers across the territory of the Virgin Islands, particularly those at the Elmore Stout High School. We have not seen this level of protest by the primary division campuses. However, in an invited comment, Education Minister, and I must admit and point out that we did reach out to the Honorable Minister earlier on yesterday for an official comment, and we just recently got that comment where he said, and I quote, "The ministry is investigating the specific reasons that teachers at the junior campus of the Elmore Stout High School did not report to work. This action was not sanctioned by the teachers union. We have been engaged in ongoing dialogue with the teachers union. 5 issues were identified when we met in August, and those issues, he said, are payment of a $300 stipend. This request was approved. A monetary budget and checks are in process for being administered. He also said payment of increment. This request was approved. The first of these were budgeted and in the process of being administered through HR. Full involvement of salary review. This request was approved as confirmed by the director of the HR in or her announcement rather for salary review. The maintenance of mold remediation, which is what I just mentioned to you guys, that was done in an effort after the fact of the senior students, senior teachers rather, striking, and updates on a move from the Passia campus to the Lower State campus for the Elmore Stout High School. We have been making progress, the minister said, on an update, and we will be given the next meeting of Teachers Union as well as the House of Assembly. More to come on the developing stories. Kamal, this of course, this story has caused quite a stir within the community for a number of reasons. Students of the Elmore Stout High School, junior, and then on the senior campus today, while they were online, enrolled, they were prepared to go to schools, and of course, teachers did not show up. It's not an age-old issue. We have been taking our teachers for granted for a very long time. What I find contradictory, and I'll make it plain, when we look at the statistics and we look at the storyline, the narrative rather, the Honorable Minister in his comments said, and I quote, a number of stuff. The payment of $300 stipend. Initially, the Honorable Minister said that teachers could only use this stipend for teacher-related issues. It was then changed and said they could use it for whatever they wanted to. Payment of increments. While that was approved, these are year-long issues that the teachers have not yet seen. That's increments, that's one. Full involvement of salary review. It's one thing to have a discussion, it's another thing to make it happen. The third, that's fourth rather, maintenance of mold remediation. This again was done at the senior CTL campus only when education officials got a wind that they were about to strike. All right, and that's the senior school. School was canceled. We're going to do remedial work. We have cleaners coming in, and we see where they're essentially, based on the reports from teachers, principals, and educators across the board, we just realized that persons were coming in. Updates on the move from the Passia campus to the Lower State campus. I want to make something essentially clear when it comes to the update on moves from the Passia campus, because we ourselves at 284 Media essentially published a story that said that furniture was received at the Elmore Stout High School. When doing our investigations, you heard the stories that the loan guarantee from the First Caribbean Bank as it pertains to the furniture was done. Essentially, only 40 chairs and desks were brought to the Elmore Stout High School. When we talk about social distancing and COVID-19 protocols, and you hear officials making a lot of noise essentially about making sure that our teachers and our students are essentially taken care of, that makes absolute no sense. So for this particular update on move from Passia, you can't move CTL students from Passia, and you can't move them vice versa, because you still have the growing issue. There's no infrastructure, there's no furniture for students to be able to skillfully really engage with social distancing. And then of course we have the update from the Teachers Union. The Teachers Union themselves made a statement supporting the teachers and saying, we stand with the teachers. Following that, at-large representative, the Honorable Sherry Castro, reshared that very same post on Facebook saying that teachers, we stand in solidarity to you. So honestly and essentially, we have a narrative problem. We have a problem where somebody's not doing their job. Either the law enforcement, the legislators are not doing their job, or the people who are working in public relations, the people that are working and creating these speeches, the people are working in education, the CEO, from everybody straight down. You're doing a horrible job at educating and really solidifying the problems that are happening within our schools. Our teachers have been working, Kamal, I know I'm on a spiel, but they've been working diligently, and for us to be sending mixed messages as legislators, it's absolutely unacceptable. On one end, a minister is saying the teachers union stands with the body. On one end, the teachers union themselves is saying we support the teachers and their stand. And then you have an at-large representative member saying I stand with the teachers and resharing the same message. Who are we fooling? Get it together.
And that's even why also it brings back to the first story why persons are so outraged.
It's ridiculous.
With the government having approving, basically the motion to to spend $120,000 on a matter that we, the people, they're not okay.
But additionally, there's so much more pertinent issues that are affecting the territory of the Virgin Islands, and this is what you choose to spend your money on.
And to go back just to that first story too, and just to show the correlation between the two and why the frustration is there as well, because they're saying, okay, when it comes to some of the initiative the teachers want, the money isn't readily available. But when you look at the motion to approve, to basically exempt the Speaker of the House from having to pay $120,000, remember, the government wants approving this money, courts want their money by a certain time. We have to remember that. So once motion is basically approved, the government would have to find the money up front to basically settle this legal fee.
Correct, but they also are maintaining and drawing the process out as it pertains to not only the $300 stipend, which is going to be taxed, but then the full involvement in salary review. We've been hearing the Honorable Premier and the Governor of the Virgin Islands, particularly the Minister of Education, talk about salary review for a very long time, not only with teachers, but government workers on a whole. They've been waiting for their salary increments since the onset of this election and the new administration. And my point is simply and unequivocally, don't make promises you can't keep. If you're unable to keep them, then keep them to yourself.
Indeed, obviously with these viewers, we obviously prolonging these two topics because they're so critical to the territory.
Absolutely, it's important that we have the conversation and really engage the public in the dialogue. And
right now, obviously the territory, they're outraged. We've seen the teacher situation from the George Van Dyke Primary School. There was all this talk about preparations happening on the first day of school, the school semester, the school term. There was this situation at Joss Van Dyke where teachers had to come out to get something done. Now we're seeing more teachers coming out at the Elmore Stout High School, both the junior and senior divisions. It's just a large cry basically to show we are fed up.
It's a large cry, but in addition to the large cry, Kamal, I must highlight that in addition to a large cry, there is not a level of acceptance on a government or agency level, whether it be the Ministry of Education. For example, today the senior teachers striked. Let's backtrack to yesterday, Wednesday, okay? The junior teachers, more than 50% of them went on a silent strike. They called in sick. While you had another percentage of teachers show up, the majority of them did not show up, more than 50%, really and truly causing the Ministry of Education. And on that campus were education officials, principals, students, parents wondering, what are we going to do? Okay? The Minister for Education, who was scheduled to make a press release later that evening at 7 p.m., while residents and friends and families and parents and teachers themselves were waiting to hear what exactly would have been said, you later got a postponement, okay? Early in the morning, we got a ZPVI radio release that was essentially from the minister encapsulating, paraphrasing, he was still wondering, well, what is the issues based on the fact that he gave them, one, happy hour in the middle of a sober October month. He gave them a $300 stipend. He was still wondering, what exactly is happening? I don't understand why the teachers are striking. But you did not, and this is a simple thing. If as a country, we can't stick to deadlines, if we have a press conference of 7 o'clock, and we can't even meet it and greet the public and say this is the situation and this is what we're working on, then we cannot expect the wider territory, the wider electoral, the civil servants to take us seriously. And now, in the final analysis, you have another day where senior students students who are expected to be online were logging in online and no teachers. That's because the senior students decided to strike. And yet, another day, you have no clear indication from the government of the Virgin Islands, particularly through the education ministry and officials as to what exactly is taking place.
And apart from the teachers, obviously, suffering as a result of the conditions and,
students,
and the conditions.
Yes.
The students are the main ones that suffer as well because obviously they still have the Caribbean Examination Council examinations to complete. Some still want to go overseas to the United States to do their SATs and stuff, so they still require examinations. And the COVID situation have, basically compounded these issues basically where these students, they basically have a lot of weight on their shoulder. And these issues that we are facing presently in terms of the two strikes of the past, so they basically makes it even tougher for these children. I always say these children basically, these students of this generation, especially during the COVID generation, have had the toughest learning experience during these COVID times with the online learning, and then obviously still have to meet the normal deadlines and the due dates as
they're at
requested.
a huge disadvantage.
Indeed. Well, viewers, up next, The VI Recreation Trust Families at Play event deemed a success after attracting some 500 residents. And we also see plans to have events, monthly events, that is, and also on the sister islands. And the Great March of 1949 takes center stage during Culture and Tourism Month with book launch and more. After we get to these stories when 284 News returns.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Is business slow? Cash flow down? Hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works. Brilliant Hands and Minds Tutoring Services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals. Viewers, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking. You're watching 284 News out of Tortola in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. It was Joseph Lowry who said, and I quote, "If you don't know where you come from, it's difficult to determine where you are." He continued by saying, it's even more difficult to plan where you are going if you don't know where you are. Recently, I sat down with Dr. Catherine Smith, Director of Culture within the Department of Culture, Ms. Bernadine Louis, Director of Virgin Islands Studies Institute, and local author Ms. Gabrielle Skelton, to take a moment to really reflect on the historical fragments that have led us to where we are as Virgin Islanders. Now, while we prepare our viewers to celebrate Culture and Tourism Month within the British Virgin Islands, the Great March of 1949 cannot be forgotten. The march was led by territorial hero Mr. Theodore Faulkner from Anegada, who was joined by Isaac Glani Fonseca, Mr. Carlton de Castro, and more than 1,500 British Virgin Islanders. Now they march through the streets of Road Town to the Commissioner's office in protest of the issues adversely affecting and impacting the territory, which they, believe it or not, had absolutely no control or say. The march was a huge success, and as a result, the Legislative Council of the Virgin Islands was reinstated in 1950 after being abolished for some 49 years. We are this year celebrating some 71 years of the Legislative Council, and while we may not be pleased with all the decisions made by our legislators, we are quite happy that we are at a point where we're making some decisions for ourselves. I want you to take a look at an excerpt from our recent interview.
I want to start by saying, first of all, that both myself and Dr. Smith, Catherine, we are members of the Public Holidays Committee, and we are also members of the Cultural Education Committee, which is charged with creating resources and other information on historical events, significant events in our history. And so this 1949 March and the restoration of the legislature is one such event, or the two events happened around the same time. The 1949 March, in putting the information together to do the publication, what I realized that we needed to let the public know, to set the context for this march, because it didn't just happen just by chance. There were a number of events that happened to bring us to that what we call a defining moment. First of all, we need to understand and need to look at or have some knowledge of when we were discovered, who settled here, and the administrations at the time, We need to be aware of the constitutions that were put in place at the time, the governments, and we also need to look at, ask the question, why was the Constitution taken away in the first place? And most important, what were the social and economic conditions of the territory at that time? Now, all of these factors put together created this situation, what you call a ticking time bomb.
Yes.
And it resulted in what we call the 1949 march. It was a march for justice. It was a march where the indigenous peoples thought that this was their time, and they were tired of being, left behind, of being left out, because history will show that the territory, after we were discovered, there wasn't really a government here. There were a couple of settlers, and I recall that, and Kathy would know this, that one governor described it as wild people defying the laws of both God and man.
Wow.
So that created gave you the impression, it was very unflattering statement, but it gave the impression of, chaos here in the islands. And eventually, after we were brought under British rule in 1672, we were put as part of the group called the Colony of the Leeward Islands. And the governor at that time, he's stationed in Antigua. Now, being so far separated by water, because we were closer to what is now the US Virgin Islands, they were then the Danish West Indies. We were at a time called a backwater of the colony, which means our social and economic conditions were not really good at all. But when the territory finally got a government in 1773, that was a government, of course, that was for the elite group or the planter class that was here in the territory.
Okay.
Our ancestors did not have a say, they didn't have a vote because they were regarded as property.
That was a plethora of our artists, Dr. Catherine Smith, Miss Bernadine Louis, and author Gabrielle Skelton-Bardot. Viewers, as we celebrate culture, as we prepare, rather, to celebrate Culture and Tourism Month, I want us to never forget the Great March of 1949. Now, as we continue on in our newscast, the New Life Baptist Church, in, of course, partnership with the senior pastor, that is John Klein, and his members are yet again hosting the New Life Baptist Church African Mission Trip benefit concert. Now, the New Life Baptist Church have been embarking on a number of philanthropic efforts as it pertains to the areas of Kenya. They have opened schools, they have contributed significantly to the lunch programs, making sure that students within the African continent are really being educated and are being taken care of. I sat down with Mr. Javon Klein. He is the son of Pastor John Klein, but also a member of the New Life Baptist Church, and he's one of the organizers of the mission concert that's going to be coming up. In addition to that, I spoke with Mr. Brent Hoyt, who is the producer, one of the artists who are going to be presenting. It's really expected to be an amazing event. I wanted you to take a look at one of our excerpts from our interview.
We are honored to be a part of this initiative. Like you said, it started back in 2001 when the church decided to invest in that school in Kenya that was meeting under the tree, 20 students meeting under the tree. Wow. And it was at a time where I myself was still a student, a young student at that. And the church decided to invest in the school, and they built a very, very good primary school over there, finished at 2010, and it's been running, like you said, they have 250 students enrolled there right now. And they were able to make such good connections and relationships over there that they went forward and they decided to build a secondary school in 2010, and that finished in 2016. And just so much good has been done through this initiative. So many minds have been nurtured. So many students and kids and families have been helped. Like you just mentioned as well, in Malawi, which is another country in Africa. So we're both in Kenya and in Malawi. We have a student sponsor initiative where just for $20 a month, you know, anyone, you know, it's open to anyone to contribute.
Beautiful.
And at $20 a month, $20 a month, make sure that a student is provided with 1 meal a day. They're given shoes, uniforms, school supplies, and
Viewers, that was just an excerpt from the New Life Baptist Church interview. We encourage you to support that benefit concert with the local church and senior pastor that really benefit. We have so much more content, but unfortunately we're out of time. I'm Ron Grant. Do have a beautiful rest of the day.
And I'm Kamal Hayes. Thank you for joining us, viewers.
Bye-bye.